Good day, ma'am. So we are the Group 4 and we'll be presenting our research entitled The Consequences of Dynamic Social Comparison of an Individual. We came out with this study because we are curious about how people discover their uniqueness and develop their ability, characteristics, values, beliefs, and behavior. So we focus on social psychology, specifically to self. Self is the fundamental element of social psychology, the relationship between oneself and the people around them. We, the researchers, assume that social influence is the proximate cause behind people's actions. The social influence is a strong determinant than one's personality, which means we and others act entirely with external influences, and self-concept is intelligible when a person has self-awareness. So we conclude that social influence affects our self-concept. Thus, we come up with these questions to be our guide. Does social influence help us to determine our self-concept, or does it prolong us in discovering our self-concept? So proceed to our interview results, review and related literature, and interpretation.
In SOP number 1, what is the perspective of the students in self-concept? This question aims to identify one's knowledge in terms of self-concept and to profound influence to one's behavior. So as we researcher wants to know more, these are the sub-question that is included in the questionnaire. So for the question number 1, what is your idea in terms of self-concept? The second question, who influenced you in the most life? Is it your friends, family or relatives, organizations, teachers, community, or classmates? How they influence you? As we do the tally with the data collected, this graph is the representation of the result in SOP number 1. And some question. 3 out of 4 interviewees answered that self-concept is a knowledge representation about themselves that pertains to the self, to the sense of self-identity. And according to the study of Kendra Cherry 2021, self-concept is a mental picture of who you are as a person, and self-perception become intelligible as people form a better idea of what is important to them. With this another proof, it may shown that people's perspective about self-concept is about the reflection of one's individual that may seen by his or herself and sometimes by the others.
In question number 2, 3 out of 4 interviewees answer that their family influences them the most by imposing discipline. And 1 out of 4 interviewees answer that her mom influenced her the most as she saw the hard works of her parent that inspired her to fulfill her goals, which is different from the answer of 3 respondents, for it is empowered by aspiring someone. With these influences, according to the Book of Principles of Social Psychology 2015, social situations create social influence, the process through which other people change our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and through which we change theirs. It's also stated that whom we interact with every day is the profound influence of our behavior.
While in SOP number 2, how social influence affects self-concept of student. This question is also to identify the positive consequences of social influence. And also for additional information, there are 4 sub-questions that we included in this statement of the problem. These are in the question number 1. Does social influence help you to know yourself more and discover things you want in life? Or does it give you hard times to know yourself more, and why? Question number 2. If it does help you to develop your self-awareness, what do you feel about yourself and toward other people? If not, how it affects you? Did you experience comparing yourself to the others? How do you, what do you feel towards them and to yourself? Question number 3. What kind of behavior attributes, values, goals, or social roles influence you by others and eventually become part of your individual's totality. Cite an example and how it changes your perspective in life. And for the last question, do you think it is relevant to have the self-awareness to perform your full potential? How will you interact with other people and or how will you express and why? As a result, 75% of the respondents answered that social influence helped them to know more about their self and sometimes help them to be motivated, but sometimes it is cause of social anxiety, stopping them to think out of box and not to socialization. So the 75% means that they are in between whether social influence helps them to know more about themselves or it is giving them a hard time to know their own identity. And for the 25% said that social influence really helped them to know more, not just in their self, but also help them to have a broad idea in many circumstances in life. The respondents answered based on their experiences. According to them, there are circumstances that knowing oneself is difficult due to the standards of others. It limits them to know their true self because of their influence of socializing with others. According to LibreText, Social Science 2021, having interaction with an individual is important to consider. On the contrary, the influence that is larger. It has more systematic forces we have on our self-perception. Its implication is powerful socializing forces are presenting us with options about who we can be. And as the respondent experiencing this kind of situation, it gives them difficulties to know themselves more. But for some instances, it helps them to be motivated. With this, it's been proven that disadvantage there is an advantage and disadvantages in socializing with a larger group because of different perspective opens to others. The standard is being set by the society or peer of group you are with is affecting your view as a look to identity. In some studies, social forces has an impact in our lives that may affect your own perception on how we are going to look on ourselves.
In question number 2 results, 75% have a positive effect and 25% answered negative effect. In question number 2, 2 out of 4 interviewees responded that comparing themselves with other people is one of their motivation to keep forward and to perform the best version of their self. Also, respondent number 3 answered that regardless of what other people cause her, it still shaped her into the person who is she today, which what she is grateful for. And 1 out of 4 answered that social comparison have a negative impact to her, which leads to negative view of herself. And as stated by Garcia and Halderson, 2021, comparing ourselves is a natural psychological tendency that has a positive effect to be primarily motivated and to gauge your skills and to make progress toward your goals.
In the question number 3, each respondent answered differently, and 3 out of 4 interviewees responded that family guidance has a positive impact on them that helps them to improve themselves. On the other hand, a respondent answered that because of how his parents imposed discipline, it made him perfectionist and give him the anxiety to make mistakes, and giving us the anxiety to make mistakes won't help us to improve ourselves to learn from our mistakes, but it only exposing us to the idea of disappointment as we do not meet our expectations. With the answer of respondents, it also proves the idea of social influence change our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The social situation is often the stronger determinant of our behavior than our personality, as stated in the book of Principles of Social Psychology 2015 by University of Minnesota.
In question number 4, 4 out of 4 interviewees responded yes. It is relevant to have self-awareness and stated different positive reasons. According to Marcus and Wolf, 1987, as the person aims to perform such motivated behavior, other people often serve as the means of achieving one's goal. In determining the role of social influence in our lives, self-concept will become intelligible and social influence will not be the reason to slow us to improve ourselves. And with these interactions, people are shaped by their social influence. So with the statement of the problem number 3, how students know themselves without the influence of others, with a question of how you identify yourself even if you are influenced by others, which pertains to their self-concept, or how will they define their self-concept different from the influence by others that they stated from SOP number 2, question number 3. So in question number 1, which is our last part, 3 out of 4 interviewees are directly overt self-perception of themselves, specifically their characteristics. This also proves the statement, as people age, self-perception becomes more detailed and organized as people form a better idea of who they are, as stated by Kendra Cherry 2021. Also, a respondent answered her values, which also part of knowledge representation about us as we exist as individual, and that is according to the study of Harter 1999. This part shows that a person can still identify their self-concept, which is different from the influence of others that become their totality, and that is because of self-awareness. So as we conclude in this study, we the researchers attain to determine the self-concept that is containing knowledge about us and the knowledge as we exist as an individual. It also demonstrates the relevance of considering having interactions with people, but it's also important to consider which people you will be having interaction with, because our profound behavior is by the influence of whom we interact with every day.
As we conclude the result in SOP2, social influence has a powerful impact on an individual. As we have mentioned a while ago, the influence of the social society has a great impact and sometimes there is an disadvantage. And this influence may change the perspective of an individual on how he or she will talk his or herself as an individual. Lack of social interaction won't give us a certain statement on how other people affecting our self-concept. Always remember that social interaction is important, and the more distance yourself with other people, the harder you understand and know yourself because it gives us the idea on what and how you will think of yourself.
Next,
Next is
comparing our
recommend.
Next, comparing ourselves has a positive effect to be primarily motivated and to gauge your skills and to make progress toward your goals. In this, we can measure what is the progress on our life, and it motivates to your goal and to your progress also. Without self-awareness, you won't be able to identify or even understand such situations in life or even think what kind of behavior you adopt by other people. In self-awareness is important because in this you will know until where you can do it and to know how to handle your problems in life.
As we conclude On the results of SOP number 3, the behavior of an individual is profound by social influence. When a person has self-awareness, a person will be able to state such certain behavior or values as to how that person perceives his or her self-concept that is different from what kind of behavior that is adopted from social influence. Self-knowledge is important for one central reason, because it offers us a route to greater happiness and fulfillment.
Next is recommendation. Recommendation includes the advice from the researchers to the respondents and other individuals on how should they evaluate their own self and on how to socialize more with a different peer of group to find their inner quality or characters. Recommendation number one, identify your strengths and your weaknesses. Create two lists to help you to start having general ideas about yourself. When doing a comparison with two things, you will know how to use those things to a useful way. Look for your strengths and weaknesses and use them to gain confidence and to know your limits. And for recommendation number two, talk to 3 to 5 people you consider to trust, balance and helpful, and have observed your behavior for an extended period of time. Then, ask for their opinion about you with unbiased and honest feedback. As we discussed a while ago, socializing is a better way to know yourself. This is to practice on how to socialize and to know the truth on how they look at you and to fix it if necessary.
In recommendation number 3, learn how to take some advice from others, because the advice from other people is essential in building the concept of self. To effectively do this, the researchers recommend remembering 3 things. First is to listen before you speak. It is important to understand that even when we are asking for advices, the conversation must not entirely be about us. We must also listen to others' experiences. Second is not to space off. We must condition our mind to focus on the present conversation and not be distracted by irrelevant thoughts. And the last thing is thanking the person who gave the advice, because they want to help and encourage us, and they are sparing time to listen on us on our problem we encounter.
Recommendation number 4. Use a personal test for you to help you recognize more your personality traits as an individual. We recommend using this test by Dr. Chiel 2021. Using this personal test will help you to know something you don't know about yourself, like behavior, unique characteristics, and abilities. And in the recommendation number 5, try new things after you discover something fascinating about yourself, because everything is a learning experience, and let your experience become your personal test result. Trying new things helps you to bring out your creative or talented self, so that in the future, you'll know what you want to do in life.
So with the recommendation number 1 to 5, you might experience some difficulties and it will show you what you're not good at. But the truth is, for you to identify your strength and your weaknesses, your characteristic abilities, you'll have to push past that initial feeling of failure to learn something about yourself that is valuable. Thus, our recommendation is learn how to control negative situations. Here are some tips we recommend to practice, which leads to positivity manifestation. First is become mindful. Do not let negative situation control you, and recognize yourself in the midst of the negative situation and raise your awareness. Second, learn from it. See what needs to be done and improve the situation. Change your thinking and stop being reactive, instead become proactive. Third, take control, which means regain all the lost emotion, thoughts, and thoughts you lost is the key to reestablishing yourself in taking control of responsibility, reactions, and eventually your situation. Fourth, make a deliberate decision and take action. Once a choice is made, commitment must follow. And as we'll end our research presentation, as a reminder for all of us, always remember that everything is a learning experience. Thank you for listening. Have a great day ahead, everyone.